Hello everyone, it's Octodraws and welcome to Lesson 5 and 6 of Crosby and Schaeffer. I'm going to skip over most of Lesson 5 because it's just review and it's not super important. It tells you you should memorize your vocabulary, and yes, it's very, very important. I'm not going to go over the assignments because I don't really think it helps anyone. A Greek boy's tablet. Here we see half of a school tablet used by some Greek lad more than 2,000 years ago. At the top, the master has written 2 lines of verse, which the pupil has tried to reproduce twice in the space below. See if you can find the mistakes in his works. Finding his mistakes is pretty hard because there's like 3 pixels per inch, so I'm not going to do that right now. Lesson 6, Declension of A stems. Skene pas ha bios. All the world's a stage. So here you can see that the whole is pas, ha bios is life, and skene is tent. I think a better translation of this would be all life is a stage or a tent. In the footnotes, it even tells you that it's literally all life is a tent, and I just think that's a way better translation. In an ancient Greek amphitheater, the skene is the scenery. It's not just a tent, it's actually the wall which sets up the background. 29. A stem feminines. A declension nouns whose nominatives end with alpha or eta are feminine. Because the feminine article shows eta in the singular, nouns and adjectives in eta are presented first. Both types are the same in the plural. So what this is saying is that words are going to end in alpha and in eta, but when you look at the plural, like right here, the endings are going to be the same. So this would be an alpha, this would be an alpha, this would be an alpha, and this would be an alpha. Come, village. And it gives you all of these as well, just so that you can see it again in a different example. Hey guys, it's post-production Octo. This actually just really bothered me, so I made sure to put one in. So I hope you like the alpha declension with the alphas. In like manner, inflect hey fuge and hey make. Absolutely not. What forms of the alpha declension have the same ending as the corresponding form of the omicron declension, but have similar endings? So if you look at it, this is similar and this is similar, but if you switch these with an omega and an omicron, they would be the same as the O declension. This is the same as well. If you switch this alpha with an omicron, they would be the same. Own is exactly the same. With ice, if you switch out the alpha with an omicron, it's the same. And if you switch out this alpha with an omicron here, then it's the same as well. So they are all very similar, except for really these two right here. It's really just the nominative and the genitive that change. A, adjectives of the omicron and alpha declensions have 3 endings, one for each gender, like the Latin. Bonus, bona, bonum. This note is telling you, regardless of the adjective, you can decline it in the masculine, the feminine, and neuter. I wish that 4 was actually a real note instead of being a footnote, because this is something that's pretty interesting, is that asum and arum are equivalent in Latin, and it tells you that the genitive plural of alpha stems originally ended in asum, Latin arum. Therefore, words of this declension regularly circumflex the ultima of the genitive plural because of the contraction of vowels. So what this is telling you is that circumflexes often show a contraction in Greek. B, such adjectives accent the feminine genitive plural, like the genitive plural of the omicron declension. So that's just telling you exactly what was in the footnote, that the genitive plural often has a circumflex accent. Inflect all 3 genders, agathos and delos. Compare the paradigms in section 510a. No. 31. Position of adjectives. A. When an adjective or an adjective phrase accompanies a noun with a definite article, the adjective usually stands between the article and the noun as in English. So you can see that the adjective here, dikaios, goes in between the article here and the word that is modifying right there, right in the middle of them. Note that unlike English, even a prepositional phrase may stand in this position. So here you have the article in the noun, and it specifies that it's not just hoi anthropoi, it's the anthropoi that are in the village, or hoi entekome. You don't even need anthropoi here most of the time because it's going to be implied. The men in the village is the translation of it. The adjective may also follow the noun and have the article repeated with it. So you can see here's our article and here's our noun, and then repeat the article and then the noun right there. It's kind of like saying the guy, the just guy. In the above instances, the adjective or phrase is said to have the attributive position. B, when the adjective precedes the article or follows the article in the noun without the article being repeated, it is said to stand in predicate position. So here it gives you an example of dikaios, ha anthropos. Even though dikaios is modifying anthropos, it's not going to be mentioned by this article. Ha anthropos dikaios. Again, this is going to be in predicate position because there's no repeat ha. The man is just, or just the just man. You could imply this is, it doesn't really matter. 32, dative of possession. In English, we say there is no lid to the box. The Latin says puero est gladius. The boy has a sword. So in Greek, the dative is used to denote the possessor, while the thing possessed is subject of the verb to be. It gives you this example, Pulake uk ein te kome. The village had no garrison. Here you can see your be verb with ein, and that gets translated to have. What's strange about this is that the dative is going to be translated as the subject. That's one thing very important to remember. A more literal translation of this would be there was no garrison for the village. 33, vocabulary. Gar, postpositive, conjunction, for. This is a particle, and just like de, it's always going to be the second word in the clause. Kome es he, village. Make es he, battle. So here you have logos, which means word, maki, battle, an argument. U before consonants, uk before smooth breathing, uk before rough breathing. Proclitic, adverb, not. Utopia. This U right here is the U. The reason why U changes is because in Greek, it doesn't really like having two vowels go right after each other. So when there's a smooth breathing mark, it says uk, and then when there's a rough breathing mark, the aspiration gets moved back to the word before it, and that's why you have this key instead of the kappa. Skene, ace, he, the tent. For etymology, it gives you scene. This transliterates pretty well. Sponde, ace, he, libation. Plural. Treaty, truce, spondi. Again, this one transliterates pretty well, and a spondi, when you're doing meter, is two longs in a row. Fugo, flee, Latin, fugio. You can see it in the etymology. Fugitive, puge, ace, he. Flight, exile. Latin, fuga. Pulake, ace, he. Guard, garrison. Prophylactic. You're guarding something, phylactos, beforehand, and that's your immune system. Pulato, to guard, and it's a verb. 34. Exercises. A. What use of the word do portions in bold suggest? So what this wants you to do is 1. ID the case, and 2. Guess a meaning for the case. Here with this own, you have the genitive plural, so it could be a possession. Puge is dative, so it could be an indirect object. Makane is potentially direct object because it's accusative. Komes is dative, so it might be an indirect object. Skenas is accusative, so it might be a direct object. Pulakes is genitive, therefore it might be possession. Spondai is going to be nominative, so it might be a subject. And skene is also nominative, so it might be a subject as well. B. Translate. U fugamen en taismakes. So we know our subject here with fugamen because of this amen ending. So we know it's we. So we, u, do not, fugamen, flee, and prepositional phrase, in the battles, makes. 2. Tegar pulake ein skene kale. 4. The garrison had a pretty tent. And this is our dative of possession that we learned earlier with our be verb right there in the dative being the possessor. Hoi den te kome pulatusi tus hippus. So the guys in the village guard the horses. Hoi is our subject because it's nominative, and then it gives us this ente kome because it's going to be telling you who these people are, giving you a little specifier. I don't translate de here because it doesn't really need to, but you could say something along the lines of also, however, or but. It doesn't really matter. What are they doing? They're guarding. What are they guarding? Direct object, tus hippus, the horses. 4. Uke san spandai tois en toi pedioi. The people in the plain had no truce. Again, this is another dative of possession where we see that tois en toi pedioi is going to be like our subject dative, where we have the people in the plain, esan, have, uk, no, spondai, truce. Because spondai, even though it's libation in the singular, spondai in the plural, means a truce. 5. Te de pulake pempes dora kala. You send pretty gifts to the guard. Pempes, you know it's you because of that ace ending. So you send dora kala, pretty gifts, dative, to the guard. De, again, isn't getting translated, but you could say something like also, but, however, just know that it's there. 6. He tu strategu puge uk ein kale. So the flight of the general, so the general's flight, was not uk, noble, kale. This is kale being used in the nobility sense, or what's honorable sense, as opposed to the beautiful sense. 7. Ectes comes age tus polemius. So age, he leads. What is he leading? It's a direct object. Tus polemius in the accusative. The enemies, where is he leading them to? Ectes comes. So it's motion away from, so it's out of the village in the genitive. Hai de skene dele esan. So de gets translated as also. The tense hai skene esan were deli, visible. The Delphic theater. Every Greek settlement of any consequence had its theater. The one at Delphi is remarkably well preserved. Here in 1927, the Prometheus Bound of Aeschylus was revived in great splendor. And again, so cool, amazing, awesome, epic. There were also a lot of other things, like, they were doing Prometheus Bound maybe there, like, 2,000 years ago, which is a lot way cooler than 1927, but self-insert. C, complete. Pulake, we see is our nominative, so a garrison. Ein was de, which can be translated as also, and this is going to be another dative of possession. So you would have toi komoi, and it would translate to something along the lines of the village had a garrison. 2. Uk esan skene te pulake. Ignore this, I made a mistake. So that just goes to show that everyone makes mistakes. Good thing I caught that. 2. Uk esan skenai te pulake. So this doesn't really give you any case endings. The only real way that you can do this is you have to see that esan is going to be plural. So that means that skenai has to be the subject, and it also has to be plural. Te pulake is going to be dative. Again, it's going to be another dative of possession. It gives you a ton of dative of possessions in this. So no tent was in the garrison or for the garrison, and the guard had no tent. They're both acceptable translations. Number 3. So it gives you en toi pedioi etalusi ta spondas luein. En toi pedioi etalusi ta spondas luein. So depending on whether you want your subject to be male or female, you can put it either, just those people. So hoi or hi works. Ta would not work. So sadly, you cannot do neuter because of this plural ending right there. So hoi, and then it's going to specify en toi pedioi, those in the plain. So they want, and then it says, give me the negative adverb, which is going to be u. But since you see that there's the epsilon right there, you need to have that kappa at the end. And then etalusi usually takes an infinitive, so there it is right there with Luane, and he wants to break the treaty. 35, word formation. It is interesting to follow the changes in meanings of words. Words are living creatures, and as such, they constantly acquire new characteristics and the new aptitudes as they adjust themselves to new conditions. In other words, what it's saying, without breaking it apart between 2 pages and footnotes, words change meanings in different contexts and different time frames. So just because you see one word at one point in time, in one context, it doesn't mean that it's going to mean the same thing at a different point in time in a different context. Thus, skene, tent or booth, was originally used for the tent or booth into which an actor withdrew to change his costume. When the theater became more elaborate, skene referred to the wall that served as support for painted scenery. From this, it was but a step to skene, meaning the scene of an action. The Theater of Dionysus. This is probably the earliest extant theater in the world. It is built on the southern slopes of the Acropolis of Athens. Here the great Greek dramas had their first performance. It seated about 17,000. And with that, thank you all for joining. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, and remember, be positive, be yourself, and have a good one. Peace. Peace.